going on, everybody? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, our QB1, J.J. McCarthy, was catching more strays on the Purple Daily podcast coming in from Ross Tucker. He had some interesting comments, and I don't completely disagree with what he was saying, but we'll just dive into the whole thing here on today's show. But before we do so, we are starting an NFC North sub-battle here on the channel. We're going to be taking on the Packers Report and Bears Now in a race to 100 subscribers. So if you guys want to help me out, I sit right next to both these guys here in the Chat Sports studio. So if you guys could hit that subscribe button today, help us beat the Packers Report and Bears Now to a race to 100 subscribers. Really does go a long way here. So hit that subscribe button today, and let's dive into today's show. So Purple Daily, they do great work over there. I'm sure a lot of you guys know all about them. But they had Ross Tucker on the show, and Ross is just an NFL analyst, and he was talking about J.J. McCarthy and this whole offseason cycle at the quarterback position for the Minnesota Vikings. And this is a quote he said that went viral yesterday on Vikings Twitter, saying, "No matter what the Vikings say about J.J. McCarthy, they wanted Sam Darnold back. And then when they say that, and then when they weren't going to get Darnold back, they wanted Daniel Jones back. As much as they're sold on J.J. McCarthy, they weren't that sold. So the Vikings have some doubt on J.J. McCarthy." And I understand Ross's thought process here. Like, yes, the Vikings were trying to get Darnold back on a super cheap one-year deal. There's some context there. And also Daniel Jones. They wanted to bring him back, but to be a backup quarterback. So I understand the thought process here, but I also think this was a major reach. This had nothing to do, in my opinion, about the Vikings having doubts on J.J. McCarthy. And even if they did have doubts, for right reason. The guy was coming off a torn meniscus. To call a spade there, like, they should be a little concerned considering they view this upcoming year as a massive year for the franchise. But our good friend, Thor Nystrom, shout out to him, my opinion, the best NFL draft analyst in the game, responded to this tweet, saying if they truly wanted Sam back, it would have been for cheaper than anyone envisioned. They made a low-ball one-year offer when franchise tag trade didn't materialize. Jones left because he wanted a shot to start that wasn't available here. Both good points. But then also Ross Tucker followed up and said this: NFL teams don't offer over $13 million guaranteed to a guy with no chance to start. That's not a thing. And I completely disagree with that because, in my opinion, Daniel Jones knew he never had a chance to start for the Minnesota Vikings because he clearly viewed Indy as a better chance because they had Anthony Richardson compared to the Vikings having J.J. McCarthy, where clearly the Vikings organization is bigger on J.J. than, the Colts are as big on Anthony Richardson. But why would he choose the Colts over the Vikings if, let's just say what Ross said was true, where maybe he had a 40% chance to start with the Colts and maybe a 20% chance to start with the Vikings? If I was in Daniel Jones' position, I would much rather take my chances with the Vikings, considering what he just saw with Sam Darnold, a guy who had a very similar career trajectory compared to Daniel Jones. Obviously fizzled out with the Giants. Darnold fizzled out with the Jets. And, when he went to the Panthers and he went to the Niners, didn't work out there. But then he really took his game to the next level with the Vikings because of the support system, Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson. Why would he choose the Colts over the Vikings? But I think the Vikings wanting, Darnold back on a one-year deal, wanting Daniel Jones on that $13 million guaranteed contract is just because they wanted a high-value backup quarterback. Now, you may be saying, well, why did they wait until the NFL draft to acquire one? Because also, Kwesi clearly put a big point of emphasis on the comp pick formula, and they didn't want to just go sign a backup quarterback and, risk losing a third or fourth round comp pick. So they waited, and then they traded one of their picks for a decent backup quarterback in Sam Howell. And I think the Vikings being aggressive also for, Daniel Jones, I just think KOC cannot go through another 2023 season where Kirk Cousins, when he got hurt, and then it was that Josh Dobbs magical run for that 2-week stretch, but then it just really, went down the drain with Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall. Clearly KOC and Kwesi cannot have that happen. And also, the Vikings, they clearly believe in McCarthy. Like, the fact that he just kind of put that out there that they're not completely sold on the guy, I think is a little ludicrous. because they said no to Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is a 4-time MVP, a guy who won a Super Bowl MVP, a man in Aaron Rodgers who has killed this Vikings organization every single year he was with the Green Bay Packers. And also, the Vikings view 2025 as a year to contend. So, the way they've set up all these contracts, they backloaded a lot of them because they have a stacked roster for the 2025 season. If they didn't believe in McCarthy, they would have brought in more competition. But it's just Sam Howell and Brett Rippon. Clearly, they view McCarthy as the guy. And I just think this is, typical June content in the NFL where people are just, speculating way too much. And maybe Ross knew what he was doing here, and maybe he knew he was going to get clicks by, putting that out there that the Vikings aren't completely sold on J.J. McCarthy. But I just think that's a little ludicrous because they view 2025 as a year to contend. And if they didn't fully believe that J.J. McCarthy could be that guy that could take them on a deep playoff run, they would have just turned the keys over to Aaron Rodgers on a one-year deal and said, hey, J.J., we love you, but just sit another year. Like, that wouldn't be the worst case in the world for J.J., but clearly they viewed him as the guy. So let's show him some love here on today's show. I guarantee you we'll get another report out there at some point during the summer that the Vikes aren't sold on McCarthy. So if you guys want to show him some love, type those 9s down below in the comment section. Just another news cycle where J.J. McCarthy is just catching them random strays. So if you guys want to show him some support, type those 9s down below. And also, if you guys want to get a Minnesota Vikings hoodie today, hit that link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. These hoodies are up to 50% off. These things are awesome. Take advantage of this deal. It's going to probably go away once summertime ends. So if you guys want to pick up a Vikings hoodie today, that's the link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. These hoodies are up to 50% off. Take advantage of this and just click this link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. I'll have that in the comment section and description of today's show. But even though other NFL media may not be big on J.J. McCarthy, clearly the guys in the organization are. And Harrison Phillips yesterday after practice compares J.J. McCarthy's growth and energy to when he was around a young Josh Allen in Buffalo and saw him come into his own as a quarterback. So clearly high praise here. I think Allen's the second best quarterback in the league. One of the best quarterbacks, frankly, we have ever seen touch the field in the NFL. And the fact that Harrison Phillips, who was with Josh Allen, is comparing him to J.J. McCarthy, I think it's great news there. But also Justin Jefferson, he's showing some praise for McCarthy. He says he definitely has an arm. That's for sure. He can definitely zip it when he has to. And, if people forget at the scouting combine, J.J. McCarthy threw a football 62 miles an hour, was the highest in his class. And keep this in mind, Joe Milton also in his class, people view him as having a bazooka of an arm. J.J. threw a faster football than him. And, also I remember what T.J. Hawkinson had to say on a podcast during the offseason talking about McCarthy, saying, I remember catching passes from Matthew Stafford. It zips on you. Looks like it's not coming, but it's coming. JJ has the juice behind it where it kind of has that effect. And, clearly Hawk, that's high praise as well. You're getting Josh Allen and, Matthew Stafford comparisons. I think that's great news for McCarthy. But there's no doubt there's a ton of pressure on McCarthy this season. I think Caleb Williams has a ton of pressure on him. Honestly, every quarterback in this division has a ton of pressure. Like Jared Goff now without Ben Johnson. Jordan Love, people are saying he regressed last season. Can he get back to who he was, even though I think that's a little ludicrous? But, Caleb Williams has the stacked team around him now, high expectations. And obviously McCarthy, you won 14 games with Sam Darnold. There's a ton of pressure on him, maybe not to win 14 games, but to bare minimum get the Vikings back to the playoffs in year one starting. But at the end of the day, this will be a process. I don't want everybody to, overreact to a potential slow start for McCarthy because this is a guy who's still 22 years old. This wasn't a situation where you drafted like a Michael Penix or Jaden Daniels where they were 23, 24 years old coming out of college. JJ turns 23 in January. So we can't overreact to a slow start because this guy also hasn't played a game or a snap and a regular season NFL game. So I don't want to see, personally us Vikings fans overreact if let's just say Monday night against the Bears, he has 2 interceptions, throws for 200 yards, and he's the reason they lose. Because also I will say this, if that's the case, media will take victory laps after one bad game. Because all of these guys, they weren't, big fans of McCarthy coming out of college. We all know the typical MO where it's he didn't throw a pass in the second half of a Penn State game. oh, Michigan had a stacked team. They never asked them to, do what the Vikings could potentially ask him to do. So I can already see it now. If the Vikings somehow start, 0-2 to the season, they lose to Caleb Williams and Michael Penix in the first 2 weeks, media will be taking victory laps after just a couple bad games. And I'm just hoping Vikings fans, us personally, we don't do that. But also Harrison Phillips just on a podcast recently. It's a little longer quote, so stay with us. But he was talking about McCarthy, saying, I'll say one little thing about J.J. So J.J. gets hurt with his meniscus in training camp, and they want him to take a break and relax and get away from football. Like, this is really hard time. You have never been hurt before. Let's say he got hurt on a Sunday. On Wednesday, they figure out what's wrong and what he has to do, and he is calling me saying, what day of the week are you free so we can meet and you can watch film with me and talk defensive line with me? Throughout the whole season, he's asking me questions and trying to meet up so he can sit and watch film. Well, he's a rookie going through the hardest time of his life, injured in a new city. He wants to sit with one of his vets and captains and watch defensive film so he can understand what's going through my mind. That's a sign of someone who is going to play football for a very, very long time. And I think it's clear JJ has already won the locker room over. And I think you can do this in two different ways on the NFL level, where either these guys see him at practice and he is just cooking their defense and he just looks the part and it's clear that he is the guy. But also you can win a locker room over with just hard work and your work ethic. And JJ has already proven that to his teammates. And I think also the sicko part of his nature where it's like, oh, he tears his meniscus, he's going to be out for the year. All right, I'm going to call Harrison Phillips and try to watch some defensive line film. Like, I love that just mindset that he has, that he's trying to get better in every aspect of the game. It's not just, understanding offensive scheme, getting a relationship with your receivers. It's understanding defensively how they're trying to attack you. And I just love that mindset for JJ. And I couldn't be more excited for the season at the end of the day. It's just that typical point in the offseason where we got to wait a couple months to get some real Vikings football back in our lives. And, it's going to be fun watching training camp and getting all of these reports out there. And I guarantee you, if JJ has one bad practice and Aaron Rodgers is still unsigned, there's going to be some reports out there that the Vikes are considering Rodgers. But I couldn't be more excited for the season just to put this to bed and hopefully for J.J. McCarthy to prove a lot of these doubters and just naysayers wrong. So shout out to J.J., man. Swear to God, he is a one-of-a-kind quarterback, one-of-a-kind person, and they still try to scrutinize him anytime they get a chance. So if you guys believe in J.J. McCarthy, give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. And also hit that subscribe button. Help us beat the Packers Report and Bears now in a race to 100 subscribers. We'll see y'all next time. As always, Skol Vikes.